My mom found these thrifted nightstands at our local Goodwill for only $30 a piece. She sent me a picture of these and asked if she should get them for me, and I have never texted back yes faster. Today I'm going to show you how I took this failing, outdated, and beat up finish and I completely updated it with paint and stain. Hey there, Lauren here, and welcome to my channel. I was so excited to get these home, but I actually let them sit in my garage for quite a while because I got project paralysis. I could not decide which direction I wanted to take these nightstands. I narrowed it down to 2 different colors, either black or green, and I put a poll up on my Instagram and let my followers decide, and black actually won by a landslide. These nightstands are solid. They're Dixie brand, which is a great furniture brand. The first step to pretty much every furniture flip is to remove all the drawers and hardware in preparation for cleaning. I'll set the hardware aside and I'll clean it later in the project. I typically use warm soapy water and a scrubby sponge to clean my projects. These nightstands were pretty dirty, so I cleaned them a couple times to get all the dirt and grime out of my piece. This is by far my least favorite step of any furniture flip. I think it's disgusting to have to clean all of the old dirt and grime and just dust of people's homes out of used furniture. But it really is so worth it to me to get to see the end product and save some furniture from ending up in a landfill. And you might be wondering why I'm cleaning so thoroughly if I'm just going to sand it in my next step. And the answer to that is if you sand before cleaning, then you're just going to grind all that dirt and grime into the finish, and it's going to be really hard for paint or stain to adhere properly to the piece. And especially if you don't clean before you paint, then that paint is just going to peel right off and it's not going to last very long. So as you can see, the top finish is completely failing. So I went to removing it with my carbide scraper. I went back and forth on whether I wanted to paint the top or stain it, but I ended up deciding to stain it. A lot of times if something that's going to be used a lot, like a nightstand or a desk, staining the top ends up being a lot more durable in the long run than painting because, paint can scratch a lot easier than a stain with top coat can. So that's kind of what I decided to do with this piece. After I scraped the entire top layer off, I sanded the top with 150 grit, then followed by 180 grit, and then 220 grit. And I did the exact same process with the drawers because I think these nightstands are going to look pretty cool with the drawer front stain too. So that's kind of my plan moving forward. I'm going to paint the body and then stain the top and stain the drawers to match. There were several chips in the veneer that needed to be filled with wood filler. I'm using Bondo here to fill in these chips. Bondo, if you didn't already know, it's a 2-part epoxy that activates and turns hard once you add the activator in. You have to work pretty fast because Bondo hardens up really, really fast. I used some painter's tape for a straight edge in a couple parts and filled in the Bondo where needed. I had to do a few layers in a couple places just to make it all smooth. After the Bondo dried, I sanded it down flush with the existing veneer. I gave the entire body a good scuff sand with 180 grit sandpaper, and I always scuff sand before applying my primer or paint. It just gives your primer or paint or whatever it is that you're using some good teeth to adhere to, and it can smooth out any small imperfections that you might have missed with your wood filler, or it's just easier to sand it out with a sander. applying my paint, I'm going to be using a stain blocking primer. I typically prefer to use a primer for most projects, but it's especially important if you use any wood filler or Bondo or if you have any bare wood spots showing through. Plus, because I am using an Alkyd enamel paint, it's recommended to use a primer with this type of paint. I'm using Kiehl's Restoration Primer for this project. It's water-based and it works really well and it dries pretty fast. I used to use this shellac-based primer, but it got extremely expensive. I think it's up to like over $70 for a gallon. And that just wasn't cutting it anymore. That shellac-based stuff, it works really well. But this Kiehl's Restoration Primer I found works just as close as well, and it's only $40 a gallon, which if you're flipping a bunch of furniture like I am, it's a lot easier to make that investment in a project as compared to, $70 a gallon. That's a lot. I'll sometimes spray this primer, but I just got a new sprayer and I don't want to run this like thick, sticky primer through it. So I decided to brush and roll it on. With primer, I don't typically worry too much about brush strokes because I'll sand with an extra fine sandpaper between coats to ensure a really smooth finish before I apply my paint. I applied 2 coats of this primer and I let it dry overnight. This primer actually dries in about an hour, but I do this mostly after work, like late at night, and I was ready to go to bed. So let it dry overnight, and I'll see you back here again tomorrow. I just got a brand new sprayer. I'm super pumped to try it out for this project. This sprayer is a HomeRite Super Max sprayer that I got on Amazon for only $100. It has some pretty good reviews, so I'm excited to try it out. I'm going with Behr's Alkyd enamel paint in the color Limousine Leather for this project. I mixed my paint up and I strained it into the canister. It's super important to strain your paint, especially if you're using a paint sprayer. So any dried bits or clumps don't clog your sprayer. I've been super into this Alkyd enamel paint lately. It sprays so smooth and levels out so nicely. It has about a 4-hour recoat time and a built-in top coat, which really saves me a lot of time in the long run. And it's really nice. It takes about a week to fully cure, but when it does cure up all the way, it dries to a super hard and durable finish. I applied my first coat of the paint after work, so I let it dry overnight, and then I applied my second coat the next day. Before applying the stain, I used a pre-stained wood conditioner. A pre-stained conditioner penetrates the wood grain to promote a uniform acceptance of an oil-based wood stain. I let the conditioner sit for about 30 minutes before applying the stain. So I started applying this stain. I ended up absolutely hating it. Turned out super orangey against the black paint and reminded me of Halloween. So I ended up restaining it to a darker stain. This darker stain ended up looking so much better on the wood. I let this stain dry for about 24 hours and then I applied the top coat. For my top coat, I'm using Minwax top coat in a satin sheen. My paint has a built-in top coat like I mentioned before, so I'm only applying a top coat to the stained parts of this project. I'm using a foam brush to apply the top coat, and after the first coat dries in about 2 hours, I'll sand it smooth with 220 grit sandpaper and reapply my second coat. While my top coat's drying, I'm going to clean the hardware and restore them to their former glory. I have a tried and true method that really brings out the former shine in my hardware. First, I add a mixture of water, white vinegar, I add in my hardware, and then I boil it on high for about 10 minutes. My entire house smells absolutely awful. Sometimes I have to step outside while this is boiling. I definitely recommend having some air freshener handy because your whole entire house will smell absolutely awful. After that, I use extra fine steel wool and Barkeeper's Friend to scrub the hardware. Just look at that difference. I'm using Howard's Feed and Wax to condition the inside of the drawers. I use Feed and Wax on the inside of most of my furniture projects. It smells so good and really brightens the inside of the drawers up. Finally, it's time to reattach the hardware to the drawers. Here's one more look at this outdated nightstand set that was found at Goodwill. And here is a new look, all cleaned, updated, and ready to find a new home. Thank you so much for sticking around and watching my video today. Leave me a comment down below with any questions or thoughts that you might have on this piece. I would love to chat. If you enjoyed this video, please support and subscribe my brand new YouTube channel to follow along on my journey of flipping furniture, thrifting, and vintage home decor hauls. Here's a couple more videos that you can watch next. Hope you enjoy!